Hi guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give everyone a couple more minutes to join. I would say 2 more minutes. And then we're going to start and we're going to go through everything that we're going to need and so on. You can just generally find a supply list in description of this event. But yeah, I will talk about all of that in 2 minutes. So we'll just wait 2 more minutes. All right, guys, we'll wait 1 more minute. Okay, it is 6:35, so I think it's a good time for us to start. Welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone. If you haven't met before, my name is Vera. We'll be painting this wonderful little cute gnome with the hearts tonight. Now, let's quickly go through all our supplies to make sure we have everything that we need for today. The first thing you're going to need is a canvas. I'm going to be using 9 by 12 inch canvas, but it doesn't mean you have to use the exact same size. You are welcome to use absolutely any size that you would like. Bigger, smaller, doesn't matter. Completely up to you. So yeah, another thing that we're going to need is a pencil because we're going to start with sketching our gnome. Because again, we didn't come with pre-sketched canvas. We're going to be sketching it together. So make sure you have a pencil. And eraser will be helpful as well. Then after that, we're going to move on to our painting part. And we're going to be using a few colors. For me personally, I'm going to be using 4 different colors. Technically, you can get away with just 3 even. I have my primary colors only, which is white, black, plus red and yellow. And red needs to be more of a red that's on a pinker side, so like a magenta-based red or something that has that pinker undertone. That way, we're going to mix it with white and we're going to get the wonderful pinks that we're looking to get here. The only reason why I have a little bit of yellow here is for the nose to make a skin tone color. Now, this is optional color. You don't even have to. You can make nose just pink and it's going to look wonderful. So this yellow is optional. These 3 are a must: white, black, and magenta-based red. Yellow is additional and would be good to have. If you guys have any other colors you would like to use, absolutely go for it. You can use any colors that you want. You can technically make every heart different color and it will still look fantastic. So it's completely up to you what color scheme you want to stick with in the end of the day. What else? What else? And of course, if you have pre-mixed shades of gray, you're welcome to use them as well. Totally up to you guys. This is, again, not a big deal. As long as you have white, black, and red, that's all you need. But if you have any other colors you want to use, that's great too. You're welcome to use all of them. What else? Oh, of course, we're going to need a paper towel or usable fabric cloth, whatever you would like. And water. And guys, I'm going to look through your questions in chat in a second once I finish going through supplies. So as far as brushes, I'm going to be using a pretty standard set of 3 different brushes. Now, again, it's not super necessary. You can use anything you want. The only brush that's super necessary that you can't get away without is small number 0. So the small pointy brush number 0 is the only one that is a must-have here. And the reason why, there are lots of fine details. So you're going to need a really good small brush to get all of them. As far as bigger brushes, anything you have is good. Doesn't really matter. You're just going to need something bigger for the background. In my case, it's going to be this one, medium, large. If you have numbered brushes, this is number 11. I usually don't go by numbers because every different brand and company, numbers vary. Even though they should be all standard and number 11 in every set should be the same, they are not, unfortunately. So don't really go by numbers unless you have a set with numbers, in which case you can. So just something bigger for the background and something medium-ish for filling in your gnome. That's all. This one I'm going to be using to fill in my gnome is number 5. Again, for those who are wondering, but I wouldn't, doesn't matter, whatever you have. And good number 0. Or number 2, number 1, something similar, something very, very small. So that's pretty much all that our supplies that we're going to use for today. Now, if you guys painting with us for the first time and you're wondering if you can do it later, you absolutely can. As we're live, the video is being recorded right away. So whenever we finish the event, the video is going to stay right here on our YouTube and you can do it anytime. And also when it stops being recorded, when we're done the live event, you're going to be able to pause it. Right now, as we're live, it's not going to give you an ability to pause. However, as soon as we finish, then you're going to be able to pause the video and actually take your time on certain elements if that's what you prefer doing. And also, even as we are live, you can actually rewind the video and rewatch sections of it. Even though you can't pause it, you can still rewind it. So if you find that you prefer going a little slower or you need a bit more time for any element, just keep rewinding back and going at your own pace. Because again, the video is going to be here forever. No rush. You don't have to finish it when I finish it. You can finish whenever. And that's pretty much it. So let me quickly take a look if anyone has any questions that need to be answered before we start. And then we're going to start painting. Which red is best? Any red, as long as it has a pinker undertone. That's all that matters. All right, awesome. So I'm going to put this away for now because we don't need it yet. All we need is a pencil. And what I'm going to start with is I'm going to put one line with my pencil, vertically, right in the middle of my canvas. And the reason why I want it is that this is going to be my middle line, so my gnome doesn't end up being tilted one way or another. I want my gnome right in the middle, straight. So that's why I'm going to start by putting a straight line right in the middle of my canvas. And yeah, you're welcome to use rulers if you want. I usually just fix my finger. Just say I'm fixing my finger, my pinky, on the edge, and then I glide my pinky on the edge. And as I do that, the line appears here parallel to my edge. I find that a very helpful little trick. And then I can just go over it again, make it a little darker. Overall, I would say don't make it too dark because this is just a help line. We're going to get rid of that later. Good question. Patricia, that's a great question. If you're using bigger canvas, yes, you should use larger brushes. So those brushes are for my size of the canvas. If you're using bigger canvas, you're still going to use number 0, the smallest brush, but the other two you can go bigger. And the same with smaller canvases. You're still going to use number 0 regardless, and then you can go smaller with the other two brushes. All right, that's good. Now, we know where our gnome is going to be positioned, right? What are we going to do now is we're going to start with the first element, which is going to be a little nose. And the nose is going to be right in the middle. So wherever the middle is, we're just going to put a little oval for our nose. And you can always adjust it later. It doesn't have to be the right size right now. We're just trying to position things. And you can adjust them later, make it bigger, make it smaller, and so on. All right, so we have our nose. After that, I'm going to sketch our beard. So this beard element, and I'm going to decide how far my beard is going to go. So I'm going to leave a bit from the bottom. In my case, I would say it's about an inch. It may be a little bit less than an inch. But again, this is, I wouldn't go by that measurement because that's specific to the size of my canvas. If you're using different size, just leave a bit of gap from the bottom. So I'm going to mark it up. And now I'm going to, you see I put a little mark where I want my beard to end. And now I'm going to put 2 lines on the side. So I'm going to go curved down from the middle of the nose. So curve down, curve down. And then from here, I'm going to start adding my beard. So I'm going to just put the base shape first. Maybe something like this. That's just the base shape. And then I'm going to lighten up the edge because I want to make it more zigzaggy and beard-like. And now, let me show you what I mean closer. I'm going to make it like this. You see, I'm adding a bit of a zigzagginess to it. Instead of just having it straight. And again, we may go over it again and we may redo this. This is just for us as a base start. Once we position every single element, we're going to look at it again and see if we actually like it. If something needs to be changed, we'll change it. All right. After we have our beard, we're going to position our legs. So our legs are going to start, let's say, from the edges of the beard. So it's not really legs, it's the gown. Whatever he's wearing, pajamas. I'm not really sure what gnomes wear. So do you see they're slightly curved and the edges go slightly towards the side here. So it's a straight line and then it curves a little bit towards the outside. And then I'm going to add legs. So the feet, they're going to be about on the same level as the bottom of the beard, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be exactly there, but around the same area. So here are my 2 feet. And of course, I'm going to add a bit of that gown in between as well. All right. And now we're going to add the arms. So one arm is, both arms are going to start where our head ends. Do you see right here? So somewhere right here, let's say. So I mark these two spots. And first arm is going to go down, I would say about halfway through here. So it's going to be like this, curved, and curved here, and curved here, and ends with a little bowl. You can erase everything underneath it as well, so it doesn't get too confusing with lines. And the second arm, again, it's going to start in the same spot. It's going to be a little bit shorter. It's going to go like this and end with a ball as well. A little circle, but just a little bit higher up. All right, and then we're going to add the heart. So the heart should be positioned somewhere around here, so between the arms, somewhere here. Well, of course, I'm going to erase everything underneath it as well, so I don't have too many lines in the end. All right, that's half of our gnome. Get in there, guys. We're getting there. And I can erase this middle line underneath the beard too. We don't need it there, but keep it at the top because we haven't sketched the top just yet. All right. And now we're just going to add a hat. Hat is super easy. You started just on the same distance from the middle line on those edges of the beard. So basically where your arms start, and you bring it as high as you want it to go. I would say keep it about the same distance from the top and the bottom. Doesn't really matter. Again, it's not a precise math. Just leave a bit of space on top. In my case, the gnome's head, the hat is straight, but if you want to give it a bit of a shape, you absolutely can. That would not be a mistake. That will look still wonderful. So it's up to you. Whether you want to do it straight like mine, or if you want to give it a bit of shape. And after that, you can erase the middle line here because it served its purpose. And I'm going to add a little pom-pom on the top. And ta-da! Here is our gnome. So now I want to sketch those little hearts that are hanging in a background. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm actually going to start by putting hearts first, and then I'm going to add the threads that go up. So I'm going to start by, I'm going to put 2 bigger hearts and 2 smaller hearts. All hearts can be, like this, for example, 2 can be either the same size and this to the same size, or all of them can be completely different. It's totally fine either way. So I'm going to start by putting hearts somewhere here. Then I'll put one right here. I'm going to add two on this side. And now that I positioned my heart, I'm going to add strings going up. So just vertical lines from the middle of the heart up. So vertical line 1, vertical line 2, vertical line 3, and vertical line 4. And of course, you can add a little bows there, but also you don't have to do that all on the sketch part. We can just do it later when we actually move on to painting part. If you prefer to have everything sketched before we start, you can add them too. Not going to be a mistake. And then we're going to add just like a little line here for a horizon. And that's pretty much our sketch. I'll give you guys 2-3 more minutes to just finish it up to make sure it is the way you like it, because it's easy to make adjustments on this face when we're still in a pencil. It's easy to just erase and redo and adjust things. Once we move to paint, it's going to be much, much harder. So you want to perfect it as much as you can now before we move to the painting part. So I'll give you a couple more minutes, finish a sketch, and then take a really good look at it and see, do you like it? Does something seem out of proportion? And if something does seem out of proportion, fix it. Just erase that part, make it bigger, make it slower, make any kind of adjustment that you would like. Yeah, whatever you want. So I'll give you a couple more minutes for this. All right, do we have it or do we need a couple more minutes? What do you guys say? You can move to painting or I can give you another minute. Also, I saw that some of you are having troubles with sound or video. I would say, guys, just try to refresh the page. It could be your internet. Sometimes when the internet gets wonky, it kind of goes a little weird. So in that case, if your internet is just being wonky today for whatever reason, you can always try this later because again, the video is being recorded, so it doesn't have to be done in real life if you're having issues with it. All right. I see lots of people are done. That's awesome. Amazing. So let me put away my pencil because we're not going to need it. And while I'm giving everyone one more minute to finish up. Oh, my pleasure, Lori. I'm going to explain to you what we're going to do here. So we're going to start with a background. We're going to start with using just white first. And don't do this yet, guys. I'm going to show you how to do it. You don't have to run ahead and just do it as I explained. Just listen for now so you know what's coming. So we're going to start with a background. We're going to take some white and we're going to apply it to pretty much the entire background. And then after that, we're going to make shades of gray. We're going to start with a very light shade of gray. Just going to add a couple of brush strokes and then slightly dark shade of gray. I'm going to add a couple of brush strokes too. And the brush strokes of gray, we're only going to add from the top and the bottom. So from the outside towards the inside and blend them into that white here. Do you see these dark ones? The ones that are in black? We're not going to do them yet. The darkest shade we're going to go is this for now. The dark shades, the black, we're going to do in the end. Almost last thing. So don't aim for that. We just need the darkest for now right here. After we've done that, we're going to start going on to our gnome. And there are certain areas that are going to require more than one layer. Like, for example, the hat. The hat is going to require more than one layer, so we're going to start by putting just one layer on it. Hearts are going to require more than one layer. Arms, all those parts are going to require more than one layer, so we're going to start by adding layers to them. And the reason why they're going to require more than one layer is because we want them super vibrant. If we could do them with just one layer, but they're just not going to be as vibrant as we would like them to be. So that's exactly why we're going to do them in 2 layers. So then they're really, really nice and vibrant and the color is just juicy. So we'll do those. We'll do our jacket, our beard, then we'll do second layer and the fine details on the wrist. And then we'll finish up by dividing this into 3 wood plank looking things. So we're just going to add 2 lines in black. And we're going to add a bit of black from the edges as well, just to darken it up a little bit more. And then we're going to do white highlights. So we're going to do white design on a hat, white highlights here and there. We're going to add a couple dots and a couple smudged dots. And maybe some vertical highlights. And that will be the end of it. So it's not a crazy complicated painting. It's just a lot of details, I would say. All right, so what are we going to start with? Grab the biggest brush that you have, whatever you're using. I have this medium large. It's not even large. This is like a medium large. I'll dip it in the water, and I'm going to take some white. I'm going to use white quite generously. And I'm just going to start adding vertical brush strokes. I am not going to be avoiding my hearts. I'm going right over them. I will be avoiding my gnome, but if it gets on the outline of the gnome, totally fine. Don't worry about it. Let it get on the outline of the gnome. Not a big deal. So lots of vertical brush strokes. You could technically even color in the entire painting. Wouldn't be a mistake. Or just color in, let's say 80% of it in the middle. I'm coloring in the entire thing pretty much. And dip your brush in the water every now and then too, because you want your white to stay wet for a little bit so it doesn't dry too fast so we can blend our grays. And it's best if you use some water on your brush. So every time, well, every second time when I run out of paint, I would dip my brush in the water first and then I would dip it in paint. That way I make sure there's still always some water on my brush so my brush stays nice and wet the entire time. All right, so let me show you what that looks like, because I know white and white is hard to see, but you can see by the glare how much paint I have, not like a smidge, a good generous amount. Yes, Lucy Ann, that's a great advice. And whenever you guys have it right away, we're going to make light gray. You don't have to do it until you're done, but I want to show it right away because otherwise my paint is going to dry. So I'm going to scoop some white on the side. Then to that white, I'm going to add a smidge of black, tiny, tiny smidge of black, like a little bit. Don't add too much. You see it turns into a nice light gray, and that's exactly what you want. I might be able to make it a touch darker, but generally you want a nice light gray. Yeah, this is great. You see it's nice and light. And with this gray, I'm just going to add a couple of brush strokes from the top down. See, flicking them from the top down. Here, from the top down here. And a couple from the bottom up. And then right away, I'm going to make a slightly darker gray. And again, all that needs to be done on the wet, so I'm kind of doing it all in one chunk. So to make slightly darker gray, I'm just going to add a smidge more black. Again, a very, very small smidge to my gray. Maybe a couple of those. Mix them up. I wouldn't go past medium. Don't make any gray that's darker than medium. And with that, flick some, again, from the top down and from the bottom up. And go a little bit further, closer to the very edge. So to the very edge, you can almost add like a solid line. All right, so this is enough for me. So I'm going to wash off my brush, dry it on a paper towel, and I'm done. I want to show you one more optional thing that you could do. So when you're done this, if you find that your brush strokes are a little too harsh, mine are not, mine are good, I don't need that. But if you find that maybe they end a little too, stubby, they don't have that transparency on the ends, what you could do is you can wash off your brush, dab it off on a paper towel, so it doesn't have too much water left on it. And with a clean, very slightly wet brush, you can go here and you can somewhat just blend a little bit, just the ends of your brush strokes. So don't go starting at the bottom again. You only want to blend this midsection just a little bit, so they're a little bit smoother. And there is a nicer transition from white into the brushstrokes. And again, you may not need that, and hopefully you not need that. But I want to give you an option on how to fix it if it needs fixing. And if maybe you've gone too far with gray and it's too dark, another thing you could do is you can take white again. I wouldn't be showing you this again. It's not necessary for my painting, but you can take white again and just add a couple of white brush strokes from the middle out and not all the way. For example, you can add a brush stroke from here up, just a little bit, from here down, just a little bit, and so on. We just want this midsection generally lighter, and we want it to get generally darker closer to the edge, but we don't want it dark overall. We want it pretty light. So, and that's pretty much all that we're going to do for our very back drop right now. For those of you who like your edges done so that they match the painting, it's best to start working on them now and just take your gray and bring it onto the edge. I'm not going to be doing it personally because I'm okay with having black edges. But what you could do, wherever your gray goes to the edge, just flick it a little bit so then it looks like you wrapped your image around your canvas. Again, it's not super necessary. There are other ways to deal with your edges once we're done. But if that's your favorite way to do it, it's best to do it right away. I'll give you guys another minute for this, and then we're going to move to our next color. Paula, no, just water. I'm using just paint and water, nothing else. Alrighty, guys, and one more thing that I want to do with our grays is with actually the same gray here is I want to add a little bit of it underneath our nose. So horizontally, right here, and I'm using my medium small brush for this, but use whatever you would like. Whatever seems like the most appropriate brush, use that. Doesn't matter. I'll just add a little bit of that gray there. You see the same gray that we just used? And then I will even make it darker and add a bit more there. So just we'll add some black to it. I would say make like a dark gray. And from the top, add a bit of that as well. Do you see I made an outline first? And I'm kind of smudging it towards the bottom. And that's that for that step. All right, I think we can move to our next step. What do you guys think? Yeah? All right, let's do this. So for my next step, I'm gonna take whichever brush I need, actually. I'm gonna be using my medium small, but whichever you want. And I'm just gonna take straight red. And with this straight red, I'm gonna color in the hat. Just fully normally color it in. And with the same red, I'm also gonna color in this heart, and a little hands and feet. But again, use whichever brush is most appropriate. If medium small is still good, great. You can use it. If not, small brush is always a safe way to go. And again, I'm going to give you guys a minute for this. And after that, we're going to move to a beard. That's what we're going to work on next. All right, guys. And now I'm going to move to beard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just coloring the beard in white. Again, use whichever brush is the most appropriate for this. For me, it's a medium small brush. So I'm just going to take my white paint and I'm going to color it in. And again, I'm coloring it for two reasons. Reason number one, as a blending backdrop, because we're going to be moving right onto our gray. And we're going to be using lots of gray to create a shadow and to just make it look hairy. And reason number two, to have that nice white base, because we're sketching, so it's a bit of pencil-y and grayish. So I wanted to have more of a white base there. And right away after that, I'm going to make some gray. It's going to be a fairly light gray again, maybe medium to medium light. And then with that, and small brush, I'm going to start flicking brush strokes from the top down into this fresh white. And you see it blends, and that's exactly what we want. We want it to blend. That's why we're doing it right away. And don't go too dark with your gray. Don't go anywhere past medium. I would say this is still about medium light, medium to medium light. And I'm using just the tip of my brush to get my lines as fine as I can. And then I will add a few of those coming from the heart up. And then on the bottom part, from the heart down again. And it's best to do all of this while your white is still wet. Because if it's still wet, it means your gray will blend to a degree. So it's going to just create a bit more smoother, a bit smoother transition. You could still do this if your white is dry. It's not a problem. It's still going to work, but it's a little easier to do it on wet. So I'll give you guys a minute for that. And then I'm going to add even darker gray there. All right, I think we can move to the next one. And it's kind of the same step, just different color and a little bit less of it. So to the same color we just used, using my small brush, I'm gonna add a smidge more black to make it a little bit darker. So medium to medium dark this time. And with this, I'm gonna add a little bit more of the same brush strokes, just less. I might even make it a little darker. And I usually water down my paint for those, because I find that if my paint is too thick, it's next to impossible, even with a good small brush, to make the super fine lines that I want to make. So I usually water it down a bit. You see I'm bringing some onto the edge of the beard too, in the same brushstroke motion. You see, it got a little bit darker around the edge. And that's exactly what we wanted. And I'm kind of adding a bit of outline too. Just in those sections that contact with the beard. A little bit of an outline here too. And the beard looks nice. So we're pretty much done with beard. That's all we needed to do on our beard. So again, I'll give you guys another minute, and then we're going to do our nose. All right, so for our little nose, again, as I mentioned, you can just mix in red and white and do it in the shades of pink. And in this case, you're going to need 2 shades of pink, lighter pink, super light pink like this, and slightly darker pink like that. For those of us who want to do more of a orangey color, it's the same, but you're just going to add a smidge of yellow to both. A smidge of yellow to this one, and a smidge of yellow to the other one. And I'm going to start with my first one. So I'm just going to take this color. I'm going to color in the entire nose with it. And then to darken it up, I'm going to add a smidge of red to it. And with this darker color, I'm going to add it, maybe even actually a bit more. I'll add it around closer to the edge of the nose. So lighter shade in the middle, and then darker shade closer to the outside. And after that, I want to move on our coat. So the coat, I'm going to start with about medium gray. So I'm going to use my small brush for this. And I'm just going to make lots more medium gray. Take some white, Take a little bit of black, mix them up, maybe even medium light gray, so somewhere in between there. And then with this color, I'm just going to color in the entire coat. Then, as soon as I have our coat, while it's still wet, I'm going to add highlights and shadows. So highlights, I'm just going to take straight white. Wash off your brush, dab it on a paper towel, take straight white, and I'm going to blend in some straight white in a couple spots. So I'm going to start with the top of this arm, blend in some white there, bottom of this arm, blend in some white here. Then a little bit from the feet up. Yes, brown will look great. You guys can make your coat any color you want. So then that's my highlights. And right away, I'm going to do shadows too, because I have to do it before it dries. So for the shadows, I'll just add a smidge more black, make a dark gray. You don't need a whole bunch of it either. And basically on the opposite of where I did highlight, I'm going to add a shadow. So from the bottom of this hand, I'm going to flick some of this darker gray as a shadow. On the top of this hand, I'm going to flick some gray as a shadow. And from the top of, from underneath the heart, so upper part of the bottom of the coat, I'm going to flick some shadow from there too. And a bit around the beard here too. And that's it for now for our coat. We're still going to add a bit of black, but we're going to add it to literally everything, so there's no need to add it now. We can add it later. So I'll give you guys 2 more minutes for this, and then we're going to move to our pinks. All right. I'm going to move to pinks because why not? I think it's time. So I'm going to grab my small brush. You guys are welcome to use small or medium small, really whichever works. And I'm going to start by mixing, I would say medium light pink. So I'm going to scoop some white on the side. And I'm going to add a little bit of red. Mix them up. Make my nice medium light pink. So I think this is the color for me, but again, you go with your color that makes you happy. And with this, I'm going to color in this heart. And then right away before it dries, I'm actually going to wash off my brush and take straight red. And with the straight red, I'm going to go right onto the edge of this. I'm going to add almost like an outline, but on the inner side. I'm going to wash off my brush right away. Again, dab it off or dry it off on a paper towel. And with a clean, slightly wet brush, I'm going to smudge it. Do you see the edge where these two colors blend? I'm going to smudge it to create a nice transition from that outline red to my pink. And you may need to wash your brush a couple times, and that's okay if that happens. You see now I have a 2-shade heart with a pink middle and darker outside. Which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted there. And as soon as I have that, I'm going to move to this 2 hearts, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing, except the outer edge is not going to be straight red. It's going to be slightly different mix of colors, but it's still the same principle. I'm starting with just coloring it pink, and then I'm adding the edge and blending it in. So that's my pink. Now for the mixture, for the outline there, it's going to be darker pink. with a smidge of black in it actually. You see I'm making darker pink, like a hot pink maybe, and then a tiny smidge of black. And with that color, I'm adding that outline. You can blend it as you go, or you can add it first and then blend it with a clean wet brush, whatever you prefer. So I added it, and then I'll wash off my brush and blend it a little. And then I'll move to the next part. All right, so that's my heart. Maybe I will add a tiny smidge of straight red to the outlines, just like a little flick here and there. All right, and again, I'll give you guys a minute for this, and then we're gonna move to our red parts. All right, so now I'm gonna move, actually, let's add one more little thing before we do that. Let's add that little pom-pom on the top. So I'm gonna take some white first, color it in, and then I'm gonna take some gray. Any gray will do. I'd say medium to dark is probably best, but any is fine. And we'll just add a couple little dabs on the outline. All right, and now I'm gonna grab red. So again, use whichever brush is the most appropriate. For me personally, it is gonna be my medium small. And I'm not gonna do all red parts at once this time. I'm gonna do them one at a time. So I'm gonna start with the head. And I'm gonna take my red, and I'll just start by coloring second layer of red. You see, it gets much, much more vibrant. And right away, I will also add just a little smidge of black. So on a side, so scoop some red on the side and add a smidge of black. And with this darker color, I'm gonna add it to the edge and blend it towards the middle. So you see, it creates this cone shape versus it's just looking flat. And again, I will add some to this side too. Or even I'll flick some from the bottom too. Why not? Again, we're just creating a shape, so it doesn't look so flat. And another little thing I want to do right away, before my red dries, is I want to add some white. So again, I'm just going to grab a tiny smidge of white. Wash off your brush first though. Grab a tiny smidge of white and I'll blend it right here. And yeah, it's going to make that section look pink, and that's okay. Just there. Just a little bit of white. Again, and it helps with the shape. It makes it look more rounded. You could add definitely more than what I'm adding, but I kind of like this amount. So that's basically the base for our hat. The only other thing we're going to do is we're going to add a bit more of more visible white highlight and a design, but we're not going to do that yet. We need to shape our hearts properly and our feet and our hands first. So that's what we're going to do. And with our hearts and with our feet and with our hands, it's pretty much going to be the same system. I'm actually going to switch my brush to a small brush though. And we're going to do them one at a time. You can start anywhere you want. You can go to this heart, hands, feet, whichever. Just do them one at a time. And again, it's the same system. You start with coloring it in with red. just straight red. Then you grab your darker color, so this red mixed with black, and you blend that from the outside in. We already done that on the heart, so you guys know how to do this. So again, I'm going to outline, I'll wash off my brush, dry it on a paper towel, and I'll blend it towards the middle, just a little bit. And then I'll wash off my brush again, dab it on a paper towel, take a tiniest little smidge of white, and just, I would even blend it with my finger. Just dab it off. You can blend it with a brush, doesn't matter. Just blend it towards the middle of the heart. Just like a tiny little dab of white. And here's the 3-color heart that looks more 3D, and that's the goal. And again, one element at a time. And all those red elements that we already added first layer of red need to have that. And let me see if you guys have any questions in chat. All right, no questions. Awesome. Okay, so then I'm just going to move to my next element. And again, start with the red, then add the red and black mixture to the outline. Then I'll blend it in and blend in some white in the middle. And here's another 3D looking heart now. And let's move to our hands and feet. And for hands, I'm not going to add a highlight right in the middle. I'm actually going to add a highlight a little bit closer to the heart part. And I'm going to add the shadow on the opposite side. And feet. And feet, I'll do the same. I'm going to add shadow more to the bottom and highlight more to the top versus just in the middle. All right, so I have all my elements in red. And again, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes for this. And then we're going to move to our black outline. So we're going to add just a touch of black outlines and all those strings that connect our hearts to the top. And then we're going to move to a white design on the hat and some highlights that we haven't added just yet on the nose, on the hearts, pretty much everywhere. They're going to be not so blended, so just not blending highlights. But again, I'll give you guys another 2 minutes before we move to that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in chat. Yeah, no problem. You guys can finish anytime, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, the video is going to be here. It's not going anywhere, so totally fine. Whenever you have time, do it then. Also, to answer your question, can you follow this with a digital? I don't see why not. Yeah, if you're into digital art, absolutely. Of course, certain things will be different, but yeah, go for it. You can technically follow this with any medium. Nice. Yes, feel free to share it with us. Would love to see how it turned out in different mediums. All right, guys, so I'm gonna move to my next step then. And I'm gonna grab my small brush, a little bit of black. Let's put it on the side, and I'm gonna water it down. And with just the tip of my brush and just a tiny, tiny smidge of black, I'm gonna start adding outline to certain areas. Not everything needs an outline. For example, head only needs an outline closer to the bottom, and it's not a full-on outline. It's just like a smidge here, smidge there, to add a little more contrast. So right here, I'm gonna add it. Right here, I'm gonna add a little bit of it. Here. Maybe even a couple flicks down. Around the beard, just a touch. And again, use just the very tip of your brush. A little bit on the bottom of the arm here. A little bit on the top of the arm here. A tiny smidge around the hands. And around that heart as well. The coat, definitely around the bottom part of the beard. Even a smidge from those areas. You see this corner, from this corner down, and from this corner down to just a touch. And of course, a little bit around feet. And here is our black outline. I'm not going to be adding it anywhere else on the actual nail. Yeah, shading stuff takes time, and also, yay for the painted arms. That happens all the time. That means you're having fun. And another little thing I want to do with this watered down block, guys, is I want to add those, remember the little ropes that are hard to hanging on? So those little guys, we're going to add them in this black as well. Just try not to make them too thick. You want them quite thin. You can add the little bow too. We're getting to our last, I would say 10%, which is super exciting, guys. Still have quite a few steps, but those are nice finishing touches that will make it look super polished. And no worries, Patricia, some days just suck. So if that's that day for you, then blanket may be a better option. Do this whenever you have time and desire. Alrighty, guys, I think I'm going to move to my highlights. So before I do my highlights, actually, I'm going to do a little pattern on the hat. So for the pattern on the hat, I'm just going to do a V shape. So let me show you closer here what that looks like. You see, it's just like a little V shape made out of dots. So one dot, and then you put two on the side, two on the side. And then you put next one. One dot, two on the side, two on the side. And so on. And keep going. I'm going in my first row first. And I'm also making them smaller. And then at some point, I'm just going to start adding dots. I'm discontinue my pattern at some point and just start adding dots. You can do any pattern. You can do waves instead. You can do stripes. You can do the, what is it called? You know, when you do stripes this way and stripes that way. Whichever pattern. Anything you can come up with, you can do. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be specifically the same pattern as I am doing. So basically, wherever your imagination takes you guys. But this is what I am going to do. Dot. Two on the side, two on the side. The next. Dot. Two on the side, two on the side. And then I will do some of those closer to the sides here as well. So maybe one more row on each side, but smaller, of course. Hey, so glad to hear you guys enjoying this. You see, I have my head pattern, and after that, I'm just gonna add my highlights. Again, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of white, and now I'm gonna go on pretty much everything. So I'm going to start on my heart here. I'll add just a smidge, not a lot. And not on the edge, you want to add it more on like a lighter part. Just a couple smidges. So don't use too much paint. You want to almost dry brush it on. I'm going to add some on my nose. And here it's a little. And on this heart again, not on the edge, on the lighter part. And follow the shape of your heart here. And a little on our feet. So that's pretty much all my elements that needed a highlight. And again, I'm going to give you guys a couple more minutes. And then we're going to move back to our background. We're going to add dark, we're going to add black. Then we're going to divide it. And then we're going to finish with white highlights and a white dot and a white smudge dots. But first we have to, oh, sorry guys, I forgot. One little highlight on a head here. Oopsie, oopsie. So again, dry brush it on. Don't use too much paint on your brush. Just dry brush on like a little broken up line of highlights here. All right, a couple more minutes. And guys, for those of you who are first time painting with us, we have lots more beautiful tutorials. Feel free to check them out. We go live here on YouTube, I would say, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And you can see most of the tutorials that are coming up in the next month already scheduled. You can see what's coming, so take a look. Feel free to subscribe if you like what we do and our teaching. We have different mediums, by the way, too. We have not just acrylic, we have watercolor, we have drawing. We have lots of different mediums and themes, so feel free to check them out. Yay. And guys, I want to mention this right away too, because we all finish in different places. If you want to share your results, I'm going to post a link here in chat of where you can show your results to us. There are two places where you can do that. One, of course, you can just do it on our Facebook page, on the event page. If you find out about this event through Facebook, then you know where to find that. So you can just, post it right there on the event page. But also we do have a Facebook group that's specifically painting supporter group where we encourage everyone to share their results. So I'm going to post a link here so you don't have to search around the internet trying to find it. So here's the link. I just posted it in chat. That's the group where you can post all your results. We would love to see them. Yeah, just for those who are wondering. All right, and my last step, well, last steps, is I'm going to start with my medium large brush here. And I'm going to grab a bit of black. You can use either straight black, which is tricky and scary, or you can make dark gray. So it still looks crazy dark, but just not that dark. So I'm going to use my dark gray. I don't want to use straight black, but it's pretty dark. As you can see, you can't really tell the difference. And I'm going to add a bit of brush strokes, but this time be extra careful with it. You want to use just a tiny touch of paint on your brush, and you want to almost dry brush it. And you're going to dry brush it longer from the edges and a little shorter closer to the middle. So I'm going to start with my edge, because the edge is a safer spot to practice, I would say. Dry brush it there, and then as you go, you can dry brush it a bit more here. But you see, I just flick it from the top down a little bit, and not even all the way. So that's one. I'll do some on the other side. That's two. And if, let's say, you start with the dark gray and then you feel like you're actually pretty good at it, and you feel like it's not enough contrast, you can always switch to black. Just go over it with black. You see how it frames this top part in a way. And then I'm going to do the same to the bottom. Just a little bit. This is enough. What is this Facebook page? I will send you the link. Here is a link to Facebook page for those who are wondering. All right, and after this, I'm going to divide it. Do you remember I said we're going to divide it in 3 equal chunks by adding 2 lines? So I'm going to grab my small brush for this. And again, you can use either dark gray or straight black. And we're going to add 2 lines that will just hopefully evenly divide it in 3 chunks. Somewhat evenly divided. If it goes over your gnome, not a problem. If it goes beside your gnome, not a problem. So don't worry about crossing or not crossing your gnome. So for me, I'm going to do it right here. There's one. And try to make those lines uneven. So you don't want it to be just one even thick line. You want it to be thicker at some points, thinner in others. You could even have it broken up in certain areas that's almost invisible in certain areas. And now I actually need to give it a couple minutes to dry up. My paint dries extremely fast. So it's just going to be maybe a minute or 2, like 3 minutes tops, because it dries crazy fast. And I just use a touch of paint, but we can't really do white until this dries, because if we smudge this gray, it's just going to make it muddy. So we need to make sure this black is dry before we move to white. That's very true. It is a scary step. So that's why I always start with like a small line as possible. You can always make it thicker, but if you make it too thick right away, actually you could make it smaller because next step we can add white. So you could technically cover it up, but yeah, it's scary. Right, let's see. It's pretty dry, but the only places that are not dry are my tops, so we can work around that. All right, so what I'm going to do with white now is I'm going to start, and I will grab my medium small brush. I'll grab a little bit of white on it, and I'm going to add like a dot in white, and then I'm going to take a finger, and I'm going to smudge it in a circular motion. So it creates a very transparent circle. And I'm going to add a few of those anywhere you want. Probably not on the hearts, but just on the background, anywhere you want. And they're going to look quite transparent, and you may have a hard time even seeing them, and that's okay. Just a few of those. So I did a few, and now I'm going to dab a few. So basically, I'm going to add a dot, and with my finger, instead of rubbing it, I'm just going to dab it up to make it a little more smudged. And then I can add a couple more of those, since I will still have some paint on my finger. Those are going to be a little more visible, but still quite transparent. And I usually try to keep them to the middle part generally. You don't go close to the very edges to do them. Then I'm going to grab just a touch of my white. And guys, this is optional step because this is a tricky one too and you could mess it up. So you have to grab a bit of white on your brush, just a touch. I would even dry it up. So again, let me show you. Here's my paper towel. Oops. I would even grab it on a brush first, then dab it off on a paper towel to make sure I don't have too much paint on my brush. And beside my lines, I'm going to add a dry brush in white right over everything. And you see how transparent it goes? You can hardly see it. So as long as it doesn't look like a blob, you're doing a great job. And I will add a little bit of it on the side of the gnome here. And on the side of the nose, closer to those outlines. You see how nice and transparent it is? Again, totally optional. You don't have to, but it is going to give it a nice look. And now a little bit on this part, a little bit on that part. Most important, that's super transparent. And then I'm going to switch to my small brush. And with my small brush, oops, I'm going to take some white, straight white, so this time not watered down. And I'm going to add, again, line beside my line in white, all the way from top to the bottom. But again, broken up line ideally. You don't want it to look like a solid line. It's just like a flick here, flick there, but a bit more visible. And then I'll finish up with dots. So I'm going to add lots of dots, not really on the nose. Again, if like one or two get on a jacket or on a part, it's okay, but don't intentionally go on your nose. Position most of them on a background. And I would again say avoid the very edges. So start with a few, and then if you need to add more, add more. And then the very last thing that we're going to do is we're going to sign it. We're going to take our small brush or Sharpie, whatever you prefer, and put your initials or your name, signature, anything. I'm going to put my initials. Done, done, and done. Now, for those who haven't done edges as we went, there are two easy ways of what you could do with your edges. Now, way number one is you color match it. So you go basically to the edge, and whatever color you see here, you bring it here. So you might need to make one or two shades of gray. So you can do either your black or dark gray first, and then wherever your light gray is peeking through, just add light gray. Super simple. Option number two, you just take black and you color all the edges with black. And it's going to give it more of a framed look. So when you hang it on the wall, it's going to look like you almost framed your painting. Both of them are good looks. It's really up to you. I personally, most of the time, prefer just black. But again, if you prefer more like a wrapped image look, then color match it. And that's pretty much it, guys. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer them all in chat. And I'm going to post again the link where you can share your paintings, because we would love, love, love to see them. You can post them either on our Facebook page in general. Here's the link to our Facebook page. You can locate the event page for this event, and you can share it on the event page. Or you can share it in our group, in our Facebook painting support group. So I'm going to give you a link for that as well. So that's a link for the painting support group. Feel free to share it there. We always encourage everyone to share it. It's a pretty new group too, actually. Yeah, and check out all our other tutorials here. We have so many. And if you guys had fun and you enjoyed your painting and you love it and you want to say thank you by tipping me, you can do that. You don't have to. I'm happy to be here, but it's always a nice way to say thank you. So I'm going to post a tip link for those who would like to use it. And it's a PayPal link. You basically just click on it and it will bring you right to PayPal. All right, I posted that in chat as well. Yay, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to ask any questions that you may have. before ending this session. Yes, great suggestion. Shamrocks and Easter eggs. Agreed. Yay. Thanks, Vicky. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, blending is tricky. So what I usually do is I lay my colors on wet and then I wash off my brush and I blend them. So I go over the edge where two colors connect. So for example, if this is light pink and there's dark pink right here. So I would lay both on wet and then I will take my brush, whichever brush, and I'll wash it off and dab it off on a paper towel and I will go over the edge where colors connect to blend that edge in between those two colors. It is tricky. All right, guys, if you have no questions, then I'm going to let you all finish this in peace. Thank you for joining me. I am really looking forward to seeing how they turned out. And enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Bye, guys.